Hello, my name is Tim Pruss. I'm one of the nutritionists at CP Feeds, and I'm glad you took the time to listen to one of our podcasts today. The topic that I wanted to talk about today was what I do on a typical walkthrough on a dairy, and the goals and the opportunities and the things that we may find. The first thing I'd like to do is take a walk out to the bunkers and look at the haylage and the corn silage bunkers and see what the forage management looks like. We're at the haylage bunker, and I always do a quick walkthrough of the bunkers to look for how well they're faced and how much loose feed is left at the end of the day. And here you can see they do a really nice job of facing. They do a good job with the spoilage on the top, very little of that, and not a lot of loose feed left at the end of the day. Depending on the herd, I may walk through the barn with the dairyman, or I may walk through it on my own and then report on it later. But in both cases, I always try to keep the goals of the dairy in mind. One of the first things we'll do is take a look at the forage and the TMR that's in front of the cows. We'll also walk through the cows and look at the manure consistency and see what opportunities might be there. Walking through the cows, I gathered some manure samples from different pies in the pen, and then we took and we washed it through the sieve. What we're looking for is how well the particle size of the fiber, and also how well the starch particles, the corn and the grain, is processed and how it's digested. So if you look at the top screen here, we really don't want to see many of these whole kernels like we're seeing here. As I was walking through and kicking the manure with my feet, I could see there was some grain in there, and by washing it out, it gives us a better idea of what actually we're seeing. And then as we look through the middle screen, this catches some of the little bit finer particles of corn. This particular farm happens to feed high moisture corn and dry corn, along with about 70 pounds of corn silage. So we'll find out if these kernels are from the high moisture corn or the corn silage later on. The dry corn is on average processed pretty well here, but looking at the little chips that we're finding in here, I think there must be quite a variation or standard deviation in the particle size of the ground corn. One of the things that we can do with this is send in a manure sample and have a fecal starch done on it. And UW-Madison did some studies on this, and every % of fecal starch is worth about 3/4 of a pound of milk. So sometimes there's some real opportunities in just processing your corn, your dry corn, or tightening down the rollers on your chopper when you're chopping your corn silage. After washing out the manure and seeing some of the corn on the top, we wanted to take a look at the shaker box results. And so we shook out some of the TMR here. Normally I would do this more than once, but in this particular case we shook it out and we found quite a bit of fiber on the top and middle screen of the shaker box. We actually had 14% on the top and 55% in the middle and 31% in the bottom screen. So, in this case, there's plenty of fiber, and it makes sense why we see real consistent manure, and maybe the pies are actually stacking up a little bit, and maybe there's an opportunity to feed a little bit more corn and get a little bit more milk. It's a little bit hard to see, but we can see that there are quite a few corn chips. I think when we go over to the bunker and look at the corn and the high moisture corn, we'll see where that's coming from. So I pulled out a sample of the corn silage, and looking at that, we see a few kernels that could be crushed better. One of the things we may do is send in a sample and get a kernel processing score done on it to see what we can do better next season. And then going over here, this farm also feeds dry corn and high moisture corn. It may be hard to see, but there's a fair number of chips in the dry corn. It looks like maybe the The average particle size, micron size, is good, but I think there may be a large standard deviation here. So that may be some of what we're seeing in the bottom screen of our manure washer. And then going over to the high moisture corn, the farm said this is about 22% moisture, so a little bit drier than they would like. I think this is the real culprit of where our corn is coming from in the manure. Finishing up, we talk about any action plans that we have based on our walkthrough and decide who's going to work on those. Go from there. Thank you for watching our podcast. Hopefully you picked up some things here. We look forward to talking to you again soon. Thank you.